When my sister found out I inherited the beach house, she called the zoning office and reported illegal activity. I was fined thousands. She said, "You're not the only one who knows how to play dirty." I hired a private investigator. What he found went back years. At her son's birthday party, I walked in with a folder. Inside were documents, photos, and one recording. When I played it on the speaker, her husband asked, "I'm 52. My name's Mark. Born and raised in Wilmington, North Carolina. Lived here my whole life, aside from a short stint in Raleigh in my 20s. My sister Claire's 3 years younger. We weren't close growing up, but we didn't hate each other either. She was always the dramatic one, the one who played favorites with our parents, especially Mom. I was quieter, more like our dad. Dad worked for the city's sanitation department for almost 30 years. Not glamorous, but it put food on the table. He wasn't the kind of man who took vacations or bought new things. Every extra dollar he had went into this little 2-bedroom beach house he bought back in '86 on Carolina Beach. It was run down when he bought it. Termites, roof leaks, salt damage, you name it. But he fixed it up with his own hands, little by little, every summer, every weekend. That place was his life. It wasn't big. It wasn't fancy. But it meant something. We spent every summer there growing up, fishing off the pier, running around in the dunes, sand in our shoes. It was always Dad's dream that when he was gone, we'd keep it in the family. But here's the thing, he didn't trust Claire with it. Not after the crap she pulled in her 20s, blowing through money, quitting jobs, getting into sketchy situations with sketchier men. So when he died last year, pancreatic cancer, fast and brutal, he left me the house and the will. Just me. Claire got $45,000 from a life insurance policy. That wasn't small. But compared to the house, which is worth at least $600,000 now, it stung. And she let me know. We were sitting in the lawyer's office, and I could feel the tension radiating off her. She didn't say anything until we got outside, but once we hit the parking lot, she turned on me. "You always were his favorite," she said. "You probably talked him into this. Manipulated him when he was dying." I didn't even respond. What was the point? The man made his choice. The will was dated 2 years before he got sick. It was signed, notarized, done by a real attorney. There was nothing shady about it. But she wouldn't let it go. At first, it was just snide comments. She'd call and say things like, "How's your beach house?" Or she'd show up unannounced and try to guilt trip me. One time, she brought her kids down and said they wanted to see Grandpa's house one last time. And then she tried to stay the whole weekend. I said no. She cried in front of her kids and made me look like the bad guy. Then things got worse. 3 months after the will was finalized, I got a letter from the city zoning board. It said I was in violation of local rental ordinances and was being fined for unauthorized short-term rentals. According to the report, I had been illegally renting out the beach house through Airbnb and other sites. Here's the thing, I hadn't rented it out. Not once. A few friends of mine had stayed for a weekend in April, but I didn't charge them. They helped paint the exterior and fix some screens. No money changed hands. But try explaining that to the city. I had to hire a lawyer to fight the fine. They said the burden of proof was on me. Meanwhile, the fines were stacking. It cost me almost $3,000 by the time it was all over, and I had to cancel the roof repairs I'd planned for summer. The day I got the final notice that the fine stood, Claire called. I hadn't told her anything about it. She said, "I heard you're having some trouble with the house. Guess you're not the only one who knows how to play dirty." She knew. She was the one who reported me. I didn't respond. I hung up, but I wasn't just going to let it slide. I didn't want to do anything rash or illegal. I wanted facts. Proof. Something I could hold in my hands. So I hired a private investigator. It was a guy named Ray, ex-cop. A little expensive, but he came highly recommended. I gave him everything I had: dates, conversations, people Claire hung around with, even a few old photos from her wild years. He started digging. At first, it was just small stuff. Claire had been moving money through an old joint bank account she had with an ex-boyfriend. The deposits didn't match her lifestyle. She claimed to be a full-time mom. Her husband Scott is a contractor, makes decent money, but not enough to explain the cash flow Ray was seeing. Then Ray found the real gold. Turns out, Claire had been running a scam with that same ex-boyfriend, a guy named Lucas. They were posting fake beach house rentals on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, even a few shady websites. They'd post beautiful photos, some stolen from real listings, then take deposits. First month, cleaning fee, whatever. They used burner emails, prepaid phones, and fake names. It had been going on for years. She was smart enough to never leave a trail with her real name, except once. Ray got a recording from one of those burner voicemails. Somehow, Claire forgot she was supposed to be anonymous. She left a furious message for Lucas about not getting paid fast enough. She used her real name. She mentioned dates, an address, even a last name of one of the people they scammed. Ray handed me everything. Photos, bank statements, social media screenshots, and that recording. I sat with it for 2 weeks, staring at the folder. Then I got an invitation to her son's birthday party. He was turning 10. They were renting out a community hall in Leland. I wasn't going to go, but then I thought, no, this is the perfect time. Not out of cruelty, but because she needed to be exposed in front of the people she fooled, her husband, her friends, his family. I walked in just after the cake was cut. Everyone froze a little when they saw me. I hadn't spoken to Claire in months. She came up to me, fake smile, trying to act like nothing had happened. I didn't smile back. I didn't say a word. I walked straight to Scott and handed him the folder. He opened it, took out the photos, the payment printouts, the stills of her and Lucas outside a coffee shop exchanging an envelope. And then I took out my phone. I need you to hear this, I said. I connected to the speaker they were using for music and hit play. Claire's voice came through loud and clear. Angry. Real. No, you said I'd get my cut on the 18th. They paid already. I don't care if he's being slow. Get it done. I'm not covering another damn refund. Everyone went dead silent. Scott turned to her. What the hell is this, Claire? She looked like she'd swallowed glass. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I didn't need to say anything else. I left the folder with Scott, and I walked out. I figured that would be the end of it. I thought exposing Claire would shut her down, make her back off, maybe even finally make her face consequences for once in her life. But I underestimated her. 2 days after the party, I got a knock on my door at the beach house. It was Scott. He looked like hell. He hadn't shaved. Eyes red. He was holding the folder I left at the party. I need to talk, he said. We sat on the porch. He didn't say much at first, just stared out at the water. Then he finally asked, how long have you known? I told him the truth. A couple months. I wanted to be sure before I said anything. He nodded, tight-lipped. She swore it was fake, he said. Said you edited the recording. That you've always hated her, and this is just you trying to ruin her life. I didn't respond. I knew what kind of story Claire would try to spin. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. She drained our joint account that night, took the kids and went to her sister-in-law's place in Fayetteville. Left a note saying she needed space from toxic people. Scott handed me an envelope. Inside were 5 checks, all written out to cash, each for $2,000. All dated over the last 6 months. She was pulling money from our savings, he said. I thought it was for the kids' school stuff. Or bills. Now I don't even know if we're behind on the mortgage. He looked like someone who just realized his whole marriage had been a lie. Then he said, she's planning something. I can feel it. He was right. That night, someone slashed the tires on my truck. Not just stabbed, but destroyed, sidewalls ripped open. It had to be with a knife. No one in the neighborhood saw anything. The security camera I installed at the front door? Wires cut. The police came out, took a report. Said it could have been random, but the officer gave me a look like he knew better. I texted Claire. Me, you want to keep going? Don't push me. You started this. No reply. 3 days later, I got an email from the IRS. Someone had submitted a tip claiming I was earning undeclared rental income on the beach house. Again, the audit letter came 2 weeks later. I called the agent handling the case, told her this was a mistake, that I'd just gone through something similar with the city. She said they'd look into it, but it could take months. Meanwhile, I had to dig up every financial document I had from the last 3 years. Claire was going nuclear. I don't know if she was trying to destroy me or just distract from her own mess. Maybe both. Maybe she was panicking. Maybe she thought if she buried me in legal problems, I'd back down and she could spin the narrative. But she underestimated how far I'd go. I called Ray, the PI, and told him to keep digging. I didn't care how deep it went. I wanted everything. Every lie. Every person she hurt. Every dime she stole. And Ray delivered. One of the victims from the rental scam, the woman from Ohio who flew in and found no house, had filed a police report. She was elderly. It had been her retirement trip. she'd saved for a year. When she got scammed, she had a panic attack and ended up in the hospital. Ray tracked her down. She remembered Claire's voice. Ray also found 2 other people who said they'd interacted with Claire directly. One even had text messages that proved it. But the worst part? He found out Claire had been using my name. Some of the fake listings? They had my photo on the contact profile. Old Facebook photos of me. She'd made burner emails using my name. Told victims her brother Mark handled the bookings. One guy said he was told I would meet him at the property. Then Claire blocked him after he sent the deposit. She didn't just report me. She was trying to frame me. That changed everything. This wasn't just revenge. This wasn't about a house. Claire wanted me destroyed, legally, financially, and maybe even physically. And now, I had the proof. I thought the worst thing Claire had done was scam people and try to drag me down with her. But I was wrong. Ray, the PI, called me late one night. I could tell from his voice something new had come up, something serious. "You sitting down?" he asked. He told me he'd been digging deeper into Claire's financials, not just the scam accounts. He pulled property records, loan filings, anything tied to her or Scott. Turns out, about 8 months before Dad died, Claire took out a second mortgage on her and Scott's house, without Scott's knowledge. She forged his signature, used a fake email address, and had the documents signed electronically. Then she funneled the money, almost $80,000, into a new account under her maiden name. That money was gone. Ray sent me copies of the paperwork. I looked at the signature line. It was Scott's name, but I could tell it was off. She must have traced it or used an old document to copy it. That was federal fraud. If Scott reported it, she could be facing serious time. I didn't know whether to tell him. I hadn't seen him since the day he showed up on my porch. Part of me didn't want to get involved in their marriage any deeper than I already was. But the other part of me thought she made this war. She made it personal. Then another twist hit me hard. I got a certified letter from a law office. Claire had filed a petition in probate court challenging Dad's will. She was claiming I'd manipulated him while he was sick. Said I used undue influence, isolated him from family, and convinced him to change the will in my favor while he was mentally impaired. She included a signed statement from her friend, some woman I barely knew, claiming she overheard Dad say once that he wanted both of us to have the house. It was all lies. But it didn't matter. The court had to review it. I had to hire another attorney. More money. More time. More stress. Claire wasn't trying to win. She was trying to exhaust me. Break me. Then, the one twist I truly didn't see coming, Mom got involved. She called me one morning, out of the blue. We hadn't spoken much since the will was read. She'd always had a soft spot for Claire, always said she was the fragile one. But this time, her voice was cold. "I know what she did," she said. "To Scott. To the house. To those people online." I'm not blind. She had seen the folder. Scott had shown it to her. He'd also told her about the second mortgage, and now Mom was furious. "She told me you cut her out," Mom said. "That you manipulated Dad. That you hated her." She made me believe it. She was quiet for a second. I feel ashamed. That hit me harder than I expected. Then she told me something that nearly knocked me off my feet. She came by here last week. Wanted to borrow $10,000. Said she had legal troubles. I asked her what kind, and she told me it was your fault. I asked if she gave her the money. "No," she said, "but she took one of your old tax folders from the back room." I felt the blood rush out of my head. That folder had copies of old 1099s and expense logs from when I was freelancing part-time 10 years ago. Enough personal info that, if twisted, could confuse someone doing a background check or an audit. I asked Mom to send me the security camera footage from her porch. She had one of those Ring doorbells. The timestamp was a week ago. You can clearly see Claire digging through boxes on the porch. Then she grabs a green folder, stuffs it into her purse, and walks out without saying a word. Claire wasn't done. She was digging for anything she could use, something she could twist to keep the pressure on. But now I had something she didn't know I had. Proof of fraud, stolen identities, and enough statements from her scam victims to make a real criminal case. And I was done waiting. I waited a week. I wanted to be calm. I wanted to think everything through. I wasn't going to act out of rage. Not anymore. That's what Claire wanted: chaos. Noise. She fed off it. But I'd spent months being pulled down by her. Enough was enough. I met with a lawyer who specialized in real estate and fraud. I brought him everything: Ray's full report, the forged mortgage papers, The recordings, the scam victim statements, the fake profile she used with my name and photo. He sat there for a long time flipping through it all. Then he looked at me and said, "This is serious. If you're willing to press this, she could face multiple felonies." I said I was willing. We filed 2 reports, one with the county fraud unit over the mortgage forgery, and another with the state attorney general's office over the rental scam. I gave them everything, every name and detail, even the people she used to move money through. Ray helped organize it in a binder so tight they couldn't ignore it. I also filed a civil suit against her for defamation, for financial harm, and for intentional infliction of emotional distress. My lawyers said it probably wouldn't get me a ton of money, but that wasn't the point. I wanted it public. On record. I wanted her exposed. Then I called Scott. We met at a diner. I handed him a copy of the forged mortgage papers and showed him side-by-side comparisons of his real signature and the fake one. He stared at them, shaking his head, jaw clenched. "She signed us into debt without telling me," he said. "And she blamed me when the statements started showing up." That's when he told me she had started sleeping in the guest room. Their oldest son overheard a phone call where she was screaming at someone named Lucas. The kids were confused. Hurt. "I'm done protecting her," Scott said. "You do what you have to do." And I did. A few days later, the first shoe dropped. Claire was arrested on charges related to the fraudulent second mortgage. It wasn't dramatic, no handcuffs in public, but it was real. She was booked, fingerprinted, and released on bond. Local news even picked up a short story on it. She tried to call me. I didn't answer. She tried to text, too. "Claire, you're destroying this family. Claire, Dad would be ashamed of you. Claire, you're the real monster." I saved every message. Then the second case started moving. The rental scam got tied to 7 different victims in 3 states. 2 were willing to testify. Claire's ex-boyfriend, Lucas, flipped fast. He gave investigators everything to avoid doing time. Emails, phone logs, voice memos. Her face was on file. Her voice. Her fingerprints. All of it. She was charged with wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and identity theft. The IRS audit? Dropped. Once I showed them the evidence that Claire had been using my name to post listings, they backed off immediately and started their own investigation into her taxes. Her lawyer tried to negotiate, tried to spin her as a victim of manipulation by her ex. But the evidence was too much, too detailed, too connected. Claire pled guilty to reduced charges to avoid a full trial. 3 years in federal prison. No parole. Scott filed for divorce 3 weeks later. Got full custody. Moved to a new place with the kids. Changed their last names back to his. I helped him cover his legal fees with money from the civil case. We're not best friends, but we understand each other now in a way we never did before. Mom. She apologized. Not just once, but face to face. She came down to the beach house, sat with me on the porch, and told me she believed Claire because Claire always knew how to spin pain into sympathy. "I see it now," she said. "I just didn't want to believe my daughter could do that." I told her the truth. You're not the only one who missed it. The probate challenge? Dropped the moment Claire took the plea deal. Judge dismissed it with prejudice. That means she can't file again. I replaced the tires on my truck. Fixed the roof. Installed new cameras with backup cloud storage. Little things, but they mattered. No? The beach house is quiet again. Peaceful. Sometimes I still think about how far Claire was willing to go. What she did to Dad's memory. What she did to strangers. To Scott. To me. But justice came. Not because I yelled louder or stooped to her level, but because I kept every receipt, documented every lie, and refused to back down. Revenge wasn't about rage. It was about truth. And this time, the truth burned everything she built to the ground.